What's up, guys? I just played a game that lasted 73 moves and had the most insane endgame I've ever seen. And it's not the one that you're seeing on the board. This is the endgame that led into the insane endgame. So 2 rooks, 2 pawns against 3 pieces and 2 pawns, one of which is sitting over here, threatening to become a queen, right? So really interesting position even to start with. And then you're going to see just in just a second how this transposed into an even more mind-boggling endgame. And actually, I'm going to be breaking out the super old basic chess endings book by Ruben Fine. And I've talked about this before on the channel, but I'm going to be searching to see if I can find in here. And by the way, this is like 500 or 600 pages. Yeah, 560 something pages of all different types of endgames. I'm going to see if I can find the endgame that we had in this game in here and see what it says, and we'll talk about it. So I'm going to go really quickly through the game just to show you how we got into this crazy position. Don't worry too much about the opening. It was really weird, and I was trying to complete a quest, a side quest to capture with my knight in this particular game, and I was able to do it correctly, but the opening was really weird. Anyway, so we get to this position, and I had this little tactic here where I sacrificed the bishop, creating the discovered check to win the rook. Okay, creating the discovered attack, sorry. So I should have just taken it, and I would have been winning. Now, it's going to still be tricky because white is going to get some pawns here, and it's not easy, but I played knight g4 check thinking that I would force the king back and be able to take with check, and it would be even better, but then I realized too late that there's king g3, and now my knight's just going to be hanging at the end of that, which was not a good decision. So instead of coming out ahead material, I actually lost some material. Now, the only thing that I kind of have going for me is that my rook is pinning this knight so he can't move, and then also the rook's kind of tied down defending the knight, right? So that's kind of the only good thing about my position. And one of the things about rooks is you need to open up files. They have to have files to work with, so that's what I was doing. I was just trying to get this guy into the game as quickly as possible. So I played h3 just to open it up, okay? And doubled up here, keeping the pressure, right, on these pieces down here. And we get this, okay, knight comes in, and we get this interesting trade, which leaves us with the 2 rooks and 3 pawns against these 3 pieces and 2 pawns, which even without this passed pawn, I don't really know, but this is kind of what bothers me. So anyway, let's see what happens. And I'm like, okay, well, let's try to, activate my king. So 95 check, I lose another pawn here, but at least I get my king in a nice position to blockade the pawn. And the funny thing is, Stockfish apparently thinks that this is equal. Which I guess makes sense if you trade off all the pawns and, you can't really win. So at this point, I'm like, okay, if I can't figure out a way to win a piece somehow, I'm not going to win this. So I'm trying to be tricky with my rooks. I'm trying to, just attack things, watch out for forks, right? Watch out for pins and skewers. I mean, there's so many things to pay attention to. Just attacking stuff. It is a blitz game, but we still had quite a bit of time at this point. So I got forked here, but I saw that I could throw in the check, so it wasn't a big deal. So here we go. Again, I'm just hoping that my opponent makes a mistake at this point. If he doesn't, I don't think there's really much I'm going to be able to do. And there it was. Okay, so right here, my opponent could still be fine by blocking with the knight, and I wasn't going to do anything. But they, I guess, didn't see that move and thought that they, couldn't go here because the pawn had to go back and gave me the bishop. All right, so now I have a chance. But it gets interesting. We trade the pawns, and we end up trading these pawns. So we have 2 rooks against 2 knights. Now, I'm pretty sure that this has to be a win somehow because, a king and a rook against a king and well, let me back up. A king and a rook against a king and a knight, just one set of those is a draw, I believe, if I remember correctly, if the king and the knight are centralized together. But if the king and knight are kind of separated, you can sort of trap the knight and actually win. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Now, white's position is perfect, right? Centralized, both knights are defending each other in the center of the board with the king. My king is, as the corner, as far away from the center as possible. So everything about this benefits white, except the fact, obviously, that I have the 2 rooks. So what I'm going to do now, before I continue with the game, is I'm going to go ahead and take out my endgame book, and I'm going to see if I can find this endgame in there and see what it says, and then we'll come back and discuss as we look at the rest of this game. So let me just do that real quick. All right, guys, I did find it. It says the double exchange. 2 rooks always win against 2 minor pieces, unlike the elementary draw with only 1 exchange. So it's saying if there's only one, like a king and a knight versus a king and a rook, that's generally going to be a draw. But with the 2 rooks against the 2 pieces, should be a win. The winning idea is to pin one piece and trap or capture the other piece. Okay, as to be expected, the most difficult case is where black has the 2 bishops, or in this case, it would be white. Okay, the 2 bishops. It doesn't say anything else. It doesn't even show an example about the knights. So, and it says at the top, these endings occur so rarely in practical play that we shall have to confine ourselves to the general outlines of theory. All right, so there's not much there. Basically, pin one piece and then try to trap or win the other one. So that's what Mr. Fine had to say. And let's just see how the game played out from here. So I have the pin, by the way, that he's talking about, but the king can very easily kind of sidestep and then it's no longer pinned. And that's what was so tricky about this position to me. I was like, and then, it's a blitz game. You don't have like a ton of time. So attacks my rook. I wanted to get as far away as possible so that I don't get forked with my king. So that was kind of one thing that I was thinking, like keep my rooks, especially in blitz games. This is a good habit. Just keep them really far away from the king. Now, that being said, knights have some crazy reach. Like if I were to move my king here and my rook, here, that's still a forkable, even though it looks far away. So you have to, or even here's a better example, right? The knights still have some decent reach. So you have to be careful. But knight comes here. I'm setting up, to win the piece. Of course, white's going to try to not allow that. But I'm just trying to see what I can do. And then I figured, hey, let's bring the king in, right? Let's not leave my king in the corner. Now I have to be careful, like I mentioned, of the forks. But if I can use my king to help, I figured there would be some way to make progress. And here, wow, Stockfish all of a sudden says my position's really good. So yeah, I guess activating the king is important. And then, gave away a big advantage there. So let's see what the move was. Rook to d5. So I wonder what the point is. Let's go ahead and do a little analysis here. What's the point of this? So we're attacking the knight so that they can't move. If any knight moves, we're going to just take the other one. And we've cut the king off from defending the knights. That's what I'm noticing. Look at that, guys. Okay. So the knights are basically cut off from the king. So if you ever have, the next time you have 2 rooks against 2 knights, you'll know what to do. Cut off the king like that. All right. Anyway, I didn't see that. And in the game, I just played check, did a bunch of checking. I wasn't really sure what to do. Moved my king. And then at some point, I noticed, yeah, right here. This is where I was like, okay, now I saw that the king was cut off. The knights are over here, the king's over here, right? So this is where I was like, this has got to be good for me. And I was just thinking of doing a little ladder mate. Of course, white's going to try to stop me, but that's going to walk into a pin. And because, this guy looks like he's going to be stranded, I figured there would be some tactic available. And so I pinned it. He brought this one back. I just brought my king over. Which apparently wasn't the greatest move, but then white messed up here. So let's see what I was supposed to do. Instead of bringing the king over, I was supposed to play rook to a3, coming way over here. So the idea is to... What is the idea? Oh, the knight can't move because then we skewer. This knight can't move because it's pinned, which means the king has to move. And what do you do if the king moves? Another waiting move. Wow. So it's like a crazy zugzwang position. Okay. Anyway, I didn't see that. I brought my king over, but luckily for me, my opponent made a mistake here. So if you guys want to pause, what's the move I can play here to simplify this into a winning endgame, an easier winning endgame? All right, the move is rook to d3 check. So that's another thing you can do is if you can ever sacrifice one rook for both knights, you'll just go into a king and rook against a king, right? And that's what I saw here, the opportunity to do that. I can just simply trade, and here we go. This is where my opponent resigned, and I won. So really fascinating game. I've never had that in a game. I've never even seen that. So let me know if you guys have seen that before. First time for me. We had the 3 pieces against the 2 rooks, and then we even had the 2 rooks against 2 knights. So super interesting stuff. This was a game I played over on Immortal Game. Links below if you want to join. You can earn some free crypto. They have a free-to-play model, so you don't have to get involved with buying NFTs and stuff. If that's not what you're into, you can just play with the free pieces. You won't earn as much. It's going to be much less, but you can still play for free and have fun. So anyway, check it out if you're interested, and I'll see you guys next time.